is Yomi is Kuf Mem Hey 145. Today's Yomi is 145. Bava Basra on the daf is dedicated for a Shmira for the Chayalim, Hatzalah for the Shvuyim, and a Yeshua for Am Yisrael in this Eis Tzara. So we're going to start on 145a, around 4 lines from the top. So the Gemara has come to the discussion yesterday. If a person gives to his bride a betrothal money, and then for some reason he dies tragically, but now his family wants the betrothal money back. So the Gemara suggested yesterday that she could say, "No, I don't have to give it back to you. Give me my husband, and let me rejoice with him, and then and I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to go forward on this deal. Why should I have to give you back the betrothal money?" Remember, there were 2 stages to the marriage. There was the betrothal called the kiddushin, and the nisuin, where they live together. So today we do it all together under the chuppah. But in those days, there was 2 separate times. So he gave her the betrothal money, and now he's gone. So the family's like, "Give us back the money." It could have been a significant amount. It could have been like $1 million to betroth you. I want that money back. So so she could say, "I don't have to give it back. I'm not the one stopping the deal from going forward. It's your bad luck." So the Gemara says, well, actually, let's say that this is a dispute amongst the Tanaim. Let's say this concept that you could say Tinuli Bali Vasmachimo is actually a dispute amongst the Tanaim. How so? The Tanya we learned in the Brisa, Hamaares esa isha, somebody betroths a woman, Besua, that if she's a virgin, for a virgin woman, he writes her ksuba. Even though typically speaking, whether or not you have to write the ksuba from the time of Eris, and that's a dispute in ksuvos. Anyway, the rabbis established that you should do it. Whatever the case is, she had a ksuba from the time of the marriage. So if she's a virgin, then the ksuba will be Masayim 200. The almana, and for a widow, the standard ksuba is less. Why is the standard ksuba less for a widow? That's just the way of the world. But also, the way to remember this is, oh, thank you, Bill. Oh, Mama, Bill made you a. Oh wow, Baruch Hashem, thank you, Bill. And almana comes from the word almana, that gets 100, and so therefore the almana gets 100. So the back to the text. And so he betroths a woman from the ksuba. He betroths a woman. The ksuba is 200. The widow is 100. But if it's a place where it's a custom to return the kedushin machzirin, then you return it. Malkum shenagu shelo achzir, a place where it's a practice not to return the kedushin, a machzirin. That's the position of Rabbi Nassan, and where Gemara is going to have to say what this case is. Rabbi Yehuda Anasi Omer be'emes amru, they taught Malkum shenagu achzir machzirin, Malkum shenagu shelo achzir a machzirin. In truth, they taught the place where it's accustomed to return it, they return it. The place where it's accustomed not to return it, they don't return it. So the Gemara says, well, what is actually this difference between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nassan? Aren't they in fact saying the exact same thing? The Gemara says, doesn't the Gemara say Rabbi Nassan and Rabbi Yehuda? Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Hainu Tanakama, isn't exactly the same case as Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. It's a place where it's accustomed to return, they return. A place where it's accustomed, they don't. So the Gemara assumes there has to be a dispute here. So what's the actual discussion here about? Elav. So the Gemara says it must be that this must be the argument. Whether or not the woman, who's now a widow, can actually say, "Give me my husband and I'll rejoice with him. If not, I'll give you the $100 back." Meaning to say, you can't give it to me. This reminds me, this is a sad story, but this phrase, "Give me my husband back and I'll give you the money." My father-in-law, he was, after his wife was killed in a terrorist attack over 20 years ago, and he was trying to collect some money from some benefits from the Israeli government, which he was entitled to, and the Israeli government was giving him a hard time. He says, "Okay, I'll tell you what, you give me back my wife, and then you can keep everything." And obviously that had a big impact on the bureaucrats, and he was able to move forward. Anyway, That's like this expression. She says, "You want your money back? Give me my husband." So anyway, so the Gemara wants to suggest that that's the dispute between them, and the Chisuri Mechzer, and the text is missing some words. How is it? You need a napkin? We'll give you a napkin there. Okay. The text is missing some words. What's V'achei Ketani? And this is the way we have to read this source. Hamari Tas Isha, a person betroths the woman. If she's a Basula, if she's a virgin, Gova Masayim, she collects 200 Valmana Mana, and a widow collects 100. But Medvar Mamurim, when do we say that she collects the money for the ksuba, the Hadar Be'iyu, where he's the one who says, hey, guess what? I don't want to get married. Aval Mesa, but if she died, Malcolm Shanagu Ahachli or Machzir. And if she died, then there was a place where the custom was to return it. Then then they return the money. Malcolm Shanagu Shalo Achzir, a place where it's a custom not to return it, then they don't return it. So the Gemara says, but that can't be the case. That's only where she died. Mesa who? But if he died, you don't return it, my timer. Why doesn't she return the money? Because she could say, I don't have to return the money, because give me my husband back. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi comes along and say, but Rabbi Yehuda Nasi disagrees, and he says it doesn't matter who dies. That it still depends on the custom of the place. So the Gemara basically is trying to suggest that this is a dispute amongst the Tanaim. That if it's a place where the custom is not to return it, she can't claim, I don't want to return it, you have to give me my husband. The Gemara says, no, that's not the argument here. Oh, the Kuli Alma, everybody must be at the position. Everybody must be at the position that she can say, give me my husband, and I'll rejoice with him. Udamisu, and if he dies, Kuli Alma will pligi. Everybody says, if he dies, she gets to keep the money. Kipliga shemesa he. The only dispute between Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and Rabbi Nassim is where the woman dies, and the family wants to keep the betrothal money. And this is the case of Kiddushin with Tibur and Nisnu. You know what a sunk cost is? Do you learn that yet, Jemima, in college? Okay, do you know what a sunk cost is, Etsy? What about you, Ezekiel? Okay, so good. You come to the daf, Yomi. Daniel can tell us he's in college, boy.
Bring money, and you want to bring more money.
It's a sunk cost. Like you're done. Exactly, you're done. It's a sunk cost. Like you put money into your car, and the car is a piece of junk, and now you have a choice. You could try to resurrect the car, or you could just say it's a sunk cost. I'm done. I'll move on. That's it. You're done. So if it's Kiddushin, you have a chance of getting it back, or is it a sunk cost? The word tibuin comes from to drown, so to sink. So that's what they're arguing. Rabbi Nasser Samvar Kiddushin La'avu tibuin nisnu. Rabbi Nasser must be in the position Kiddushin, the betrothal money is not a sunk cost. Or Yehuda Nasi Samvar Kiddushin tibuin nasnu. He says so in a case where she dies. Rabbi Nassim says, listen, he gets the Kiddushin back because it's not a sunk cost. Give it back to me. She died on me. And Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says, no, they don't get it back. So it's a sunk cost. And that's it. It's done. Gemara says, but it says in a place where it's a custom to return, you can return it. How can you do that? How can you do that? So the Gemara says, no, this is what it means. Savlonos, that is in some places, that relates upon the custom. That's in addition to the betrothal money. You send her all sorts of nice jewelry. You send her all sorts of gifts. You send her a bracelet, some candlesticks. That's beyond the betrothal money. That in a place where it's a custom to return, you return it. A place where it's a custom not to return, you don't return it. Father was telling me yesterday this happens a lot. The people, they do the engagement. Everybody's excited. They give the girl all sorts of gifts. They give the groom all sorts of gifts, and then sometimes it happens. It's for the best always that the engagement doesn't work out. So now you have to give it back. The answer is you have to give it back, but because that's our custom, you have to give it back. But they have all sorts of arguments. No, so this is talking about the betrothal money. We don't do kiddushin then. We only do kiddushin under the chuppah. We only do the kiddushin under the chuppah. because we want to avoid that problem. Exactly. The Gemara says, "Mahani tanai kahani tanai." So the Gemara says this dispute is about whether or not the kedusha money is a sunk cost or not. It relates to a different dispute. Hani tanai kahani tanai. The Tanya kacha. Okay, so this is a little bit complicated with the currencies, but you want a betrothed with a kikar. So a kikar is a very large amount of money. It's a very large amount, much bigger than the amount of a ksuba. Ksuba is 200 zuz, which is approximately the amount to support a woman for a year. And so this is some say a kikar is 60 money, some say it's 25 money, but it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, and so therefore. Now, Basula go Masayim, and then for some reason, if it breaks down, if she's a virgin, she collects 200 as part of the ksuba, mana, and the widow gets only 100. Rabbi Yehuda says, Basula go Masayim, mana, so Rameir's position is she doesn't return anything. Rabbi Yehuda says she keeps the ksuba, she returns the rest. And Rabbi Yossi Omer Kacha be'asrim nosing la shloshim chatzayin. Kacha be'shloshim nosing la asrim chatzayin. So if she betrothed her with 20, you give her 30 halves, and you betroth her with 30, you give her 20 halves. What is this talking about? Maya skinan. But what are we talking about here? If she's the one who died, then me it's laksuba. If she died, she doesn't get the ksuba. The ksuba is only where the husband dies or he divorces her. Ela shemeisu. We're talking about a case where the husband died. So if that's the case, the if the husband died, then why does she have to return anything to him? Didn't we just establish that everybody says that she could say, "Give me my husband, I'll give you back the betrothal money." Name a tenuli bali, that's machimo. So it must be what we're talking about is the Ashes Yisrael Shazinta. We're talking about a Jewish girl who was adulterous. Or not necessarily adulterous. A Jewish girl who was, we'll see that it doesn't mean she was adulterous here. It means that tragically she was assaulted. Ubamai, like as we say, what's the case? The rabbis refer to the word zinta to mean both the case where she was adulterous and where she was assaulted. So that's why they're going to discuss it now. How was she zinta? Iberatzon, if she willingly did it, mias laksuva. Then if she was adulterous, she doesn't get a ksuva, she sinned. So she doesn't get the rights to this ksuva payment. Elaba ones, well, if she was assaulted against her will, Rahman al-Atzlan, Mishra Shariway, she doesn't have to get divorced under those circumstances. She remains with her husband. Must be a case of Be'eshus Kohen Shenensa. So if this is a tragic case where if a woman is married to a Kohen and then she's assaulted, she's not allowed to remain married to him. So she has to get divorced. So under those circumstances, she's entitled to get her ksuba because she did nothing wrong. The Kohen's not allowed to remain living with her. So that's what we're talking about. And so now they're arguing over the Kedusha money. They're arguing about whether or not the Kedusha is a sunk cost. Rabbi Meir says it's a sunk cost, so she keeps everything. So she keeps the ksuba and the Kedushin money. Rabbi Yehuda he says the Kedushin is not a sunk cost, so she has to return the Kedushin money. That's why Rabbi Yehuda says she gets to keep the ksuba money, but she returns the rest. The rest is kedusha money. And Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Yossi is not certain if the kedusha money is the sunk cost or not. So they split it. She gets to keep the ksuba money, and the rest they split it. And Rashbam works out the math that she's basically splitting the kedusha money based upon how much she got, because we're not sure how we rule there. So now Amar Rav Yosef Bar Minyumi, Amar Rav Nachman, B'kol makom shenagu lahachzir machzirin. Wherever it's a custom to return anything, where the woman dies, you return it. V'targuma, when they say, what is this place? Nahardai. That this is Naharda, meaning to say the cities around Nahardai, they have the custom to return it, so you have to return it. Shar Bavamai, what's the law in the rest of Babylon? Rav Yossi, More Hadri, Kedushin Lo Hadri. They return these bridal gifts, the gifts that they would send her, the bracelets, the necklace, but the betrothal money they don't return. Amar Rav Papa, Hilchasa, Bein Shemesu, Bein Shemesahi, whether he died or whether she died, Vahadabehu, or whether He recanted. Morin, excuse me, not Vahadar Bayu. They correct that in the text. Vain Hadar Bayu, whether either of them change their minds. Morim Hadre Kedusha Lo Hadre. Then they return that gift, but not the betrothal money. But if she was the one who went back, Hadra Ba'i, if she decides to change her mind, I feel Kedusha Nami Hadre. You return even the betrothal money. Amar Amar Kedusha Lo Hadri. No, Amar says you never return the betrothal money. Why? Because Shema Yomru, because we're concerned they might say Kedushin Tovsim Ba'chosa. So what's the issue here? If you're going to return the betrothal money, you might think, oh, they were never married. And now if he goes out and marries his sister, are you allowed to marry two sisters? Let's say you divorced one, are you allowed to marry the other? No, let's say the one died, can you marry the other? Yes, it's the only case in the Torah where there's something that's a prohibited relationship, but which can become permitted. If you're not allowed to marry two sisters, well, one of them is alive, but one of them dies, then you can marry her. Which Israeli prime minister did that? Huh? Anybody know? Ariel Sharon. He was married to a woman. She killed herself and he married his sister. He married her sister. A lot of rumors about why she took her life, but that's Ariel Sharon. I'm not making this stuff up. This is Israeli history. You can look this up. So anyway, if so we're concerned that if you return the betrothal money, you might think they were never married. So therefore, and he might, and then if he marries her sister, you might think it's a vow of marriage. So, and so therefore, his sister, if you returned it, you might think that the betrothal was valid on the sister when actually she's not, because you were married to the first sister, so you can't marry the second sister. Rav Ashi says, no, why do you need that? Gita mochiach. The get proves that you were married to her sister. So he says, no. That's a mistake. Some people will hear that they'll hear about the return of the betrothal money, but they won't hear about the get, and so they'll think she wasn't married to you, and they won't hear that actually she was married and divorced. Even when they return the betrothal money, the commentaries say, I don't want to get into this now, that she doesn't return everything, because then the betrothal never took effect in the first place. So you have to say she returns everything except for the minimum amount of, let's say, a penny. So now we're talking about yesterday about the shushvinios. The shushvinios were the gifts that the groomsmen sent to the friends sent to the groom getting married. So we're going to talk about the nature of those gifts. We don't do this anymore. In those days, there was a formal agreement, an informal formal agreement that you would send a gift and the other person would have to pay it back when it came your turn to get married. And you would celebrate with him at the wedding. So there were 5 things that were said about this concept called shishvunius. 1, nigbeis bebezin. You could go to the court to collect it. If you send schnapps to your friend's wedding and you're getting married, your friend has to send you schnapps. And you could take him to court. V'chozeres be'onasa. And only returns in its proper time. And it's only when you got married, but not before that. 3rd, ein ba mishum ribis. There's no interest. Meaning to say, I'm paying you a shivas. And then when I get married, you're giving me a McClellan. No, McAllen, whatever. That doesn't work. That's not interest. That's not called interest. We'll see why. It's mishamata. Normally, if I give you a loan, sabbatical year cancels it, but this sabbatical year does not cancel it. And number 5, and if it's to the estate, the firstborn takes a double portion. So the Gemara says, Nigbas bebezdin. It's collected in the court, my timer. Why? Kamil v'dami. It's like a loan. Ein ba mishum ribis. It's not. You don't collect interest from it. Because he didn't give it to you with the intent. He's not giving him more in order to add on to the loan, but rather he's just so happy for his friend. You know what it's like? They discuss. Let's say Reuben comes and says, "Can I borrow some ketchup?" He says, "Like I got a ketchup. Take the whole bottle," and it's only a half a bottle. You know, like who keeps the whole bottle in the refrigerator? So what is he going to do? Return to him an exact half a bottle? No, it's the understanding there of the engagement, the nature that it's not interest there. That's like this case. And the interest is the sabbatical doesn't cancel it. The lo karina be lo yigos, because since the lo yigos is when it comes time to collect the loan, and the sabbatical year cancels the loans that have come time to collect. But this, there's no time. This guy can hang around getting married till it's who knows what age is 20, 22, 23, 30. You know, you can get married any age these days. And the firstborn does not collect the double portion, because it's something that's earmarked for their state. The firstborn does not collect by earmarked only what's already in the estate. I'm going to give you some general rules about this shushvi misa. If he was in the town when his friend was getting married, he has to show up. Shama called tabla. If he hears the bell ring when the guy would be getting married, they'd bring the bell so everybody knows to come. That's how they used to do it. You would ring the bell, everybody would come. You didn't wait to be invited. But this guy, when he hears the bell, he has to come. Shama called tabla. If he didn't hear the bell, then the guy getting married has to tell his friend. And if he didn't tell him, if he didn't tell him, then the guy who was supposed to give the gift can have a complaint. And so Shalomim is showing, but nevertheless, he still has to give the present. He can be upset, but he still has to give the gift. Now, how much does he have to give if he didn't get to go? Because the assumption was he got to go, but he got to eat at the wedding. So now he didn't get to the wedding, so how much is he's going to lower the gift? Ad kama Amar Abaye, Nagu b'nei Genana Adzuza. The people that come to the chuppah, the custom is that if he brings a zuz, I see the kape achle b'kraisi. That which he brings, he eats. Mean to say, they would give him a zuz meal if that's what he brought. Whatever you bring in your hand, you get in your belly. You pay for your meal. You go to a wedding, you should at least pay. You should at least give a gift for what your meal cost. Ad arba, up until 4 zuzim. Let's say he gave a shushvina gift of 4 zuzim, mishalim palga. Then he has to pay a half because they're going to give him more food then. Then they're going to give him more food. From that point on, if he brought more than 4 zuz, he has to pay a half zuz. That's it, because he would be lowering down from the value of the gift according to what they give him. So since we taught this, the rabbi is going to a little bit of homilies about comparing Torah study to oh no, still we're not up to that yet. Tana Rabbanan Aslimo B'Pumpi, the first guy sent the gift to a large public wedding, and this other guy wants to make now in the return, he wants to do the wedding privately. Yachol Omerlo, the guy who got the gift, could say, B'Pumpi Asemach, I'm going to do it for you in public. I'm only giving you my gift if it's a public wedding, not a private little dinky affair. Also, let's say the first guy got married to a virgin. The second guy wants to get married with a widow. He says, I'm going to only do it with a besula, just like that's what you did for me. I don't want to give it to an almana. Almana wedding was not as happy as. Hold on, I got to take a picture of Jemima for her father. Okay, I got to get it to him. Okay. The Almana wedding was not as joyous, although I think sometimes it could be even more joyous, but it's a little sad. Asimo b'shniya ubikish la'asosimo b'rishono. This is a little tricky. So let's say if the shushvinon did it with him so most say at a second wedding, meaning he's marrying his second wife, ubikish la'asotimo b'rishona, and now he wants to do it when he marries his first wife. He said the first guy, he gave it to him when he got married only the second time, and now this other guy's getting married the first time. He could say, I'm going to hold off until you get married the second time. Doesn't mean that the first woman was divorced. You can marry 2 women. Yeah, sure. Because that was Right, you would think, because they're saying that even though this is like a sign of friendship and it's informal, it's also a formal agreement. It's like a loan because you could collect it in court. So it has to be, we have to compare apples to apples. Otherwise, it's something else. Asimo ba'akas, he did it with him when he married one woman, ubikish asosimo b'shtayim, and now the other guy wants him to do it when he marries two women. I want to do it with one, just like you did it with me. I don't want to. I want to go to two of your weddings. Have a great day, Shkoyach. Great to see you, Jemima. Tana Rabbana, and the rabbis taught Ater benichsin, Ater bepumpi zeu balagados. A guy who's wealthy in assets and public money. He's like a person who knows a lot of homilies because he always goes around. Everybody likes to hear the homilies, the stories. Have a good day, Ari. Take care. Next time, don't disappear on the planking. We all did the planking. We need Atir Selayim, somebody who's wealthy in coins, the Atir Tekoa, and somebody who's wealthy with oil, the Balpilpol. Somebody's always looking at the coins closely. That's like the guy who's always analyzing the text very closely. Atir Meshach, the Atir Kamas, somebody who's wealthy in measuring things like crops. He measures them out, and he's also somebody who's wealthy in hidden storages. That's like somebody who keeps the teachings in his repository of his brain. And I call it everybody needs the master of the wheat. And what's the master of the wheat? That's the Gemara, because that ties it all together. That's what Jeff said this morning. What do we do with the verse? Call you may ani ra'im, all the days of all my days. It says in Proverbs where I was poor and bad. Zebal Talmud. This refers to somebody who studies Gemara. He's killing himself to understand it. V'tov leiv mishtet tamid. Somebody who is always partying. That's Bal Mishnah. That's somebody who knows Mishnah because it's so easy. Rava Amar Ipcha. Rava says the opposite. That the Bal Mishnah is hard because you can't give a ruling. You can read the Mishnah. It doesn't help you. But the Gemara is a party because at the end, you're going to understand the Mishnah well. Everybody thinks, oh, I'm not ready for Gemara. I'm going to do Mishnah. Mishnah is so much easier. Just the opposite. I promise you, Mishnah is 1,000,000 times harder than the Gemara. The Gemara is just trying to explain the Mishnah. The Mishnah is indecipherable on its own. It's inscrutable. Plus, there's barely any commentaries on it. The Mishnah is so much harder than the Gemara. But people think the Mishnah is easier because it's short and it's in Hebrew. The Gemara is longer and it's in Aramaic, but it's much more elucidated. What do we do from the pasuk? What do we do? One who the burden of the stones will be said. One who splits the wood will be in danger. What does this mean? It means Mishnah says this refers to somebody who studies Mishnayos. He has only distress because he's always trying to understand them. That means Yisakim is chamimos. It's warm. Somebody who chops wood will get warmed from the wood. Now be in danger, be warmed. By the way, I also want to mention that they never ever studied Mishnayos. It was never a standalone subject in Ashkenaz. In Sephardi culture, perhaps, but in Ashkenaz, there's only like 1 or 2 manuscripts that we have just the Mishnah up until, even the printing. It was never studied just as a standalone text. That people should be aware of that. All my days were bad. That's if you got a bad wife. Then, as it says in Koheles, I found something worse than death. And what's that? A bad wife. That's what it says in Koheles. I'm sure it also works for the bad husband too. Tova. What does it mean? Your always life's a party? If you have a good wife. So choose wisely. Boys, choose wisely. What does it mean? All my days are bad. It's a guy who's a finicky person. He's always, finicky. He's not yeshivish in his belt. He's always looking to be perfect. So guess what? That you're never going to be happy. Tovay Mishnah Tamid, somebody who's always a party, likes a party, they should die to Yafo. So it doesn't bother him if something's a little dirty. He'll go with the flow. He's chill. What does it mean? All your days are bad. Zerachman. That's a person who's overly compassionate on other people. Totally mishatam zari. That's somebody. Somebody's a party. He sees other people in distress. It doesn't bother him. Now, what does this mean? What it means is, commentaries say, merachim alach zarim sofo yachzer al rachmanim. Whoever has mercy on the cruel people, in the end will be cruel on the merciful. Means a misplaced mercy, misplaced compassion is very, very dangerous. Very dangerous. And it's like Shaul, he left alive Agag, the king of Amalek. That caused so much death. That caused so much death. So, misplaced compassion is very dangerous. Very, very, very dangerous. That's how some explain this. Rabbi Yeshua Ben Levi says, all my days are bad. This is the person who's a cheapskate. As somebody who's frugal. It's a very bad attribute to not be generous with your friends. This is the person who's expansive in his thoughts. What do you mean all your days are bad? I'm telling you, Shabbos and Yom Tov. Like Shmuel said, for all your days you eat nothing, and then on Shabbos you eat a lot, that's actually worse for you, because you can't deal with the change. And now we quote Ben Sira. Ben Sira is quoted like a dozen times in the Talmud. It was not one of the books of the canon, but the rabbis sometimes bring it as a proof. Ben Sira, Ben Sira Omer Af Leilos. This refers to also the nights. B'shafal Gagim Gago. When your roof is lower than everybody else's roof because you can't raise it, Mimtar Ganim Gagim Gago. Then all the rain comes from their roofs onto your roof. And also, if his vineyard is high, then since he has no money to buy a lower down vineyard, may offer karmo ekramim. And basically, when he brings the fertilizer to fertilize his vineyard, then it brings it down, and his great soil goes into other people's yards, and that's a big problem for him. All right, we did today's daf very quickly. A beautiful daf. We'll stop here. Yeah, shakoach.